Goldman
Wait.
Sachs.
We are now recording the September 28th, 2018 Small Business Accounting Advisors. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
You notice we always start our recording when we're all laughing.
I tried to do that on purpose, actually. I want everybody to think, you know what? We are not just boring accountants.
We are.
I am.
are
Wait, I'm not the accountant.
You are.
Speak for yourself.
Boring accountants with other stuff.
With other stuff. We are fun and happening people. The rest of the world needs to know that.
Absolutely.
A cool crowd, right, Matthew?
Yep. I find life is a lot more enjoyable if you're a goofball.
Yes,
I agree.
absolutely.
That's why I didn't fit in at Pricewaterhouse. Serious.
So, Brandon, what's happening?
I am in over my head.
Oh, no.
Who sunk your battleship?
I don't know. Leave it down there, though. No, I was accepted into the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. And basically, it's 13 weeks of very intense business growth planning. I mean, talk about everything from exit strategy to program to marketing, selling, operations, processes, legal, negotiations. Being bankable is what they call it, but acquiring capital to build your business, all of it. They brought in subject matter experts. So every week we're going through, or once or twice a week, we're going through a different plan. 8 hours a day. You can't miss a single day. Very intense, kind of like a mini MBA is what they've called it, but it's completely paid for. Goldman Sachs has vetted in our course 150 applications, and there's about 25 of us in the course. But yeah, that's really it, and it's all about bringing more economy, more jobs to the local workforce. Growing about, they said success rates about 99% graduate the program, and I've got a link here too. I'll shoot that out, but they're always looking for. Basically, they get grants for putting this on. They've got, I think, 9 different locations across the U.S., and then they've also got a national cohort. If you're not close to any one of their centers, then you can go through that. But I just went through. I've been through orientation and class 1, which was you and your business, and that was just exit strategy. Talking about customer pain points. What are our customers' pains, and how can we use that as a growth opportunity for our own business? Risk management. So talking about the risk management for those growth strategies, as well as for the other parts of our business, and how do we mitigate that risk? Anyway, all of that goes into LivePlan. They've given us a subscription to liveplan.com.
Wow.
So that's good for the duration of our business. We can continue that if we want to. We also have access to a business advisor.
Nice.
As well as peer groups. So I've got a group of 3 other people that have their own businesses, totally different industries. And anyway, bouncing ideas off of each other, and then really encouraging us to work together to either create opportunities together or to work with each other. So either partnering or working with each other.
Nice.
To move forward.
So do they tell you how to survive for a quarter of a year, going to them solely and not working on your business?
Well, they did tell us. They said, look, it's intense. We give you 2 breaks and a lunch. Make all your phone and let your customers and whoever you're working with, let them know you're unavailable, and good luck.
Okay.
Does it apply to a one-person business, or does it have to be more than one-person business?
Yes, so the requirements are at least $150,000 in sales, and at least four employees, including yourself. There are some other requirements, but that's the two that usually get everybody is either the sales quota or the employees.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to where it's going to take us, but I've got a lot of work to do.
Sounds like it.
We've had a client that actually, client and good friend that went through the program, I think about 2 years ago. Actually, probably a little bit more than that. And she raves about it. She's just shared some of her experiences and what it did to help her business. So be prepared for a roller coaster ride, of course, but.
I will be updating. I did put a blog post out. It's blog.baronsinc.net, but I'll be blogging about the experience as well.
Nice.
But yeah.
It's kind of funny. I'm sure you go into this thinking you know all about your business that you've had for X number of years, right? And then you sit down, you go through it, and you're like, "Oh yeah, wow," right? Like,
crap! I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Does it talk about how you automate your processes and maybe use artificial intelligence versus employees?
That is module 7.
Oh, okay.
We've already talked about it a little bit, but really systematizing the whole practice. But all the processes are up here, and they're not on paper. If I went to the hospital, we'd be up a creek. Yeah. I would take my computer to the hospital with me and work from the bed if I'm awake.
It's the hardest part, getting it down on paper, like actually taking the time to stop, slow down, and write out the step by step by step by step.
Right, and it's so many things that we take for granted. We've got the accounting success group, and it's little things. I can walk through putting in a lead or an order. Anything, I can do it in my sleep. And a lot of our group, they know how to do it, but maybe they need a refresher on it. But I don't have it written. I need to have it written. I need.
You snag it, take pictures, and.
Yeah.
That's why I like my little rocket book.
and or YouTube videos. So yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of Process Street?
No.
So Process Street is an app that
Sarah, you were talking and muted.
Me? No.
Oh, me.
Oh, Sarah, have you heard of Process Street? You're the one.
Yes, I get their blog and their
great blog. One of the ones I actually enjoy reading.
Great newsletter.
Yes. So Process Street is an app I started playing with probably about 3 years ago on the free version of it, and it becomes like this growing checklist. About a year ago, they added on conditional logic capability. So we started building out this huge checklist when we would bring on a new client that we could do a client file review. And it's on our website where you go through, and by just asking questions as you go through it, it's most of it's yes, no questions, simple drop-down answers as much as possible. But you go through the process and it says, are you using estimates? Yes or no? Are you using customer payments, sales receipts, invoices, bills? And because of conditional logic, it expands or retracts the entire survey. So when it's all said and done, we mapped out the answers in the very end to be provided into like a report format. So you basically do this huge client write-up review just by going through and asking a whole bunch of questions to document it all out and then have something you can give to them right when you're done. Because we'd always go and do reviews, be taking notes down, and then I have to go and try to write that all back up, which was silly. So it streamlined it, but what it's been helping do also is building out the different parts of our process. It's still fractured because it's like these 5 or 6 different checklists that we're slowly pushing them together into this one big, long checklist. But it worked really well for me to capture a lot of the steps we've been doing because you can move it around and such. So definitely recommend checking that app out.
Nice, nice. And I know Intuit does have that type of checklist. Don't ask me where it's at right now, but I would say I did that same thing, and I started with the Intuit checklist probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And in that amount of time, I've revised it so that it works for me. But if you go into your Pro Advisor, into your materials, you should be able to find those kind of templates. Yeah.
I'll put a link in the chat, of course, to the list I was talking about. My goal was always to try to get people to kind of contribute or collaborate towards it and make it available to anybody and everybody, because it becomes a massive, like,
Everybody uses it, then it becomes a standard.
yeah.
I tried that with our smart sheets, but people use them, but they don't add or edit or, there's like, that's the problem with wikis, is trying to get people to contribute. I think the best wikis are gamers. These kids are great, or not just kids, but I mean, the wikis available for different games are just mind blowing. But you get into dry stuff like accounting and
It's fun. Everybody should enjoy it.
I just love filling out spreadsheets.
Nice. So we're going to change the topic a little bit. Some of our people have gotten emails from Intuit saying that they are canceling the Pro Advisor Desktop Advanced certification.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, I received an email today.
Why, though? Why would they do that?
Probably because they don't want to invest the money to make the test.
Yeah,
Well,
that makes
okay.
sense.
Let me read the official, okay? It says, each year the number of QuickBooks Desktop Advanced certifications has declined. Based on this low engagement over the last several years, we will be discontinuing the Desktop Advanced Certification Program effective December 31, 2018.
What that means is everybody needs to become advanced certified with QuickBooks Desktop, so you get to retain that for the end of time.
Right.
End of it would be an end of time.
It doesn't seem like they're requiring a CPA to maintain it,
It's just
Well,
3
yeah,
years
it does. It does.
after you pass
Does
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done a CP in a couple of years, and I've never been bothered by them. I mean, they haven't been contacted by them.
Well, they're eliminating the ACE credits to maintain your desktop advanced certification status. Also, they're going to, if you already have it, they're going to continue your benefits for 3 years, starting January 1, 2019.
Wait, what benefits do we get?
Yeah, see, that's my question.
Using
What
their logo.
do you get that you don't get with the advanced?
That includes being listed on the Pro Advisor site and whatever support status you have at that.
I think that weighs heavily, though, doesn't it? The advanced
Does.
somewhat.
Yeah, the algorithm throws you up at the top.
Yes, she's right. If you have advanced, you're up at the top when somebody goes in and searches.
Right.
So does money, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah, they changed it, and now I'm like my little teeny tiny town. I'm at the top. I used to be at the top all the way. Like even people, if you Google the town next to me, even though I'm advanced, I'm not in the town.
Yeah.
So they changed the algorithm. I am no longer showing up. Even in my little tiny town, so I don't get anything off that site anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not
Used
right.
to?
I used to be all the time. It was a good lead, but none really.
They
Nothing.
reduced the value of just the regular certification because you used to be able to see all our years. That's pretty impressive when you're trying to compare two pro advisors.
Right.
And one, became a pro advisor last month, and the other one's been since '97.
Yeah, or
And so now it's just
2005.
it's just a certification or not, and so there's no.
Well, it looks good, I think. This shows that you have certifications throughout all those years, because I've been certified since 2004.
Yeah.
And when you show all of that, then it makes it, they can see that you're an experienced pro
Experience.
advisor. Right.
Hey, you're not a slouch.
Right. That's correct.
So once they did away with that, it was like, I don't look any different than anybody else unless I see,
Right.
and then
They said people found that confusing, all those little icons at the bottom. to me, it wasn't that confusing. You looked and saw a whole bunch. That girl's been doing it a long time, and she's taking the test every year.
Yeah,
That's
right.
all I need.
I'm behind on my test, and I'm like, okay, what are they going to do with the regular certified?
Why bother at this point?
I mean, should I bother?
So what they're not telling us is they're getting rid of the advanced certified because they're going to come up with a pro advanced certified test instead or something probably.
Probably so. Probably so.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Or are they just going to put their concentrate their efforts on QBO?
Yeah, they're just
And-
discouraging
and
us from
certified.
doing desktop. It's like everything in their power to discourage us from working with desktop.
But you know, desktop has a lot of features that QBO doesn't.
Well, that's the thing.
We agree.
If they were, hurrying up.
But Sarah, then it would cost $100 a month if they hurried it up, because every time they add a feature, they add $10.
That's true. That is true.
At least they could do it all the carte. We could choose. And you're like, let me
Yeah,
pick
like
this
I
one.
need this feature and that feature, and I don't need that feature. Yeah.
That would be wonderful if we could do it a la carte. Yeah.
They're not
And
really
be
adding that
priced
much.
accordingly.
They're not adding that much functionality in the desktop. It seems like they do a couple cosmetic changes every year. And
Yeah,
Mhm.
desktop's not going to be improved. Desktop just
Much.
enterprise maybe.
I think they're probably working on their list that they've had for 5 or 6 years now in terms of features required. Or
So-
wanted.
Look what they did with the Mac. But they added 4 things.
Oh,
They
Well,
were going to drop
yeah,
it.
look at what they did to Mac. Mac was supposed to be decommissioned,
Right,
and all of a
so-
sudden they come out with a new version.
It's a pretty big feature bringing it back at all.
Mac should be decommissioned.
It's crap.
Did you guys know that the desktop environment is actually still, the total money revenues earned from the desktop environment is still outweighing and larger than the entire online environment. It was like
Right.
19 to 12, I want to say billion.
Wow.
It's that big of a difference, but I could have those two numbers wrong. I would just looked it up.
It is a significant part of
If
the
you-
revenue.
But then they just reported this last quarter that the
More
sales
than 50%.
sales are just going through the roof.
But so
They
at the
still
same
don't tell you
time,
how many go to QBO and then go back to desktop. They don't tell you that.
what they started to do, I was writing an article about this on our vendor sync blog specifically because obviously I believe that desktop's not going away quite so quick. The amount of desktop licenses has continued to go down because the number of subscriptions has gone up.
Got
Month to month. So they're playing somewhat of a game on that side of it. Additionally, Sarah, you've probably seen in the Intuit developer area, they have started revamping and building back up all of the documentation to support QuickBooks Desktop SDK.
The SDK, yeah.
And
Yes.
brought out the IIF, revising it, which is,
Why are they doing that?
Because they're not very smart.
I mean, if they're trying to discourage people from being a desktop, why did
I don't know. Isn't it a lot of mixed signals?
very much so, very much so.
we could do different departments that don't talk to each other? And
Yeah.
No, that's typical of any large.
yeah.
I just noticed in their ad for some new features, it might not have been this year, but it was for desktop, and they were like, we've added this, it's in QBO, and we're adding this now to desktop. I'm thinking, this is kind of strange. Now they're adding a feature that I think was reports, sending the reports out automatically or something. And they're adding something that was in QBO to desktop as a new feature. And
Right, that invoice tracker and vendor tracker, that bar that they have.
Well, isn't it easier to hack
money
the
bar.
desktop than QBO? I mean, you always have to be changing your password every 3 months, I think it is.
Oh, don't even get me started on passwords.
Stop!
I do love that.
It's not like it was.
No, they changed it.
Like, I'm not talking about the QuickBooks files that have credit card stuff in them, but
Just, yeah. It's
just payroll, say, or 1099 information.
not even that.
It was every 90 days, and then for all users. But I haven't changed like just a regular user in like a year or two. So it's like they backed off. They didn't say anything. But the paper was crazy, and I think they turned that off. And
Nope.
then for admin, I don't think it's.
I'm having to do it for most of
I've
my.
been putting up so many test company files, testing vendor sync all the time, having to open up new QBO desktop files all the time. If you have any kind of an issue where you forgot a password, good luck. You basically have to go on now, and it's an automated process.
Oh, no.
Oh my goodness. It's the first one I did, literally you go in, you have to get a special code that you then plug in, and I'm sorry, you have to email for it to come to you. Just give me my security question back. Why did you ask me what my...
Yeah, what's the security question for?
It doesn't work anymore. So Linda got a rant, huge, like, blah, of me just going, yeah. It's been horrible on that side. But I still don't think it's going away. I think that Intuit was trying to paint that picture start that picture 4 years ago. And everybody was all on board with it. And then all of a sudden, the people started to realize didn't go anywhere. What's going on?
Well, I think they hit a wall when you're talking about bank feeds. For QBO to really, really work well, you really have to have the bank feeds working. And let me tell you, Wells Fargo, when they were down, hurt me bad, bad. I have a process that, includes downloading the transactions that take a minute. You know what I mean? And when I have to go to that and hand enter 25, 30 transactions.
Now, are you talking about debit cards and credit cards, or are you talking about regular banking stuff?
All of it.
All of it. Wells Fargo was not downloading anything.
But when I look at the value of these bank feeds, my clients are full-blown accrual. The accounting happens before the bank activity. So the value of the download isn't as important to me.
Right.
It is with debit cards, but I discourage clients to use debit cards. And then you have the credit card thing, that's pretty handy.
That works really well.
Other than that, you're just trying to get it to speed up your bank rec. Big deal.
It's because most people, like you were just talking about having a company that has 3 to 4 employees to be able to get into Goldman Sachs thing.
Yeah.
People don't want to have a body in the seat having to key all this stuff in. So if you could get away from having to pay somebody all year long to do that.
But that's a bank. You're talking about after the fact accounting. I'm talking about.
But add bill.com to it, and it is accrual.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not a bank feed. I mean, that's automating payables or automating receivables.
Right. But I don't know. I have QBO clients that do bring in hundreds of transactions a month via the bank feeds. And to go from doing that via bank feeds to hand entering,
bank feeds putting in accounts payable, or bank feeds paying, or opposed to doing the bill payments.
Well, so there's, ironically, one of the things, like this whole thing is part of the reason why we started with vendor sync. It's trying to get the whole concept of how do you get the data into the system quicker with the least number of clicks. And even in an accrual-based system, one of the cool things is if you took a bank feed download in desktop, you can then pull it in. If you've already done the work on accrual base, it's going to match everything. And if something's not in there, it's going to populate it differently. And it's kind of a unique way that you could be like, okay, my reconciliation should be that much easier now. You still have to reconcile, but if things were missed, you could take a look at it that way. On cash basis, and I think if we were to really check what the numbers are, I think there's still a much larger number of businesses that are cash basis instead of accrual basis.
And after the fact, where they're actually, like I have one client that he takes care of his own checkbook. It's right up. There's a difference.
But what about those clients that don't write checks, that are doing the ACH payments?
Yeah. And so it's after the fact, and you're having to create the books based on their banking activity or.
Yeah, but if you're, would you agree if it's the same month? Yes, it's after the fact, because most small, I'm not saying this is right, but most small business owners are focused on the business. So they're not, calling their bookkeeper while they're at Lowe's doing something. So
Right, right.
if they're not doing it right then, it's after the fact, either by a minute or a month. It's still after the
Right,
fact.
right, right. Yeah.
So long as.
But I'm just saying,
So if they're going to, it's going to happen every week, then it's pretty much what people would be doing anyway.
So
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's-
but I'm just saying there's two different kinds of books. There's
Oh, you're right.
the books where we're actually creating transactions to create deposits and
Invoices, making
right, full blown, and then you've got the compiling
yeah.
the accounting. It's just two different kinds of accounting.
Completely agree. Completely. One is going to get you much better numbers for sure. The people that do I'm sorry, if the compiling is the after, but if they're putting the transactions in, you can go to those people almost any time and say, how much did you spend on your automobile expense? And they'll be like, oh, it's about this much. I mean, they will know those numbers inside and out and on their head because they're living inside that business.
Right.
Right.
So
But
accrual is
one
better.
is
Sorry.
better than the other. I think they're both equal as far as financial reporting. Now you get a lot more information if you're doing invoices and deposits and that, and you're selling items and that rather than.
Well, you can do the job costing with the invoicing. With the bank feeds, not so much.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And accrual is a whole timing issue. So,
Yeah.
how many businesses have you gone in, and they have all these financials, and then you find a stack of bills
Right.
you haven't paid.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so if you don't have any concept of the debt,
Right.
you're getting good numbers. No, you're getting okay numbers for a tax return.
Sure.
So then is one value of QBO is people they're getting their numbers crunched for a tax return,
And the timing isn't really so far apart anymore. When you're sitting down and you're entering all that
as
information,
long as they pay their bills.
how much time does it take to do that versus pushing a button and downloading? Is there that much of a difference between the time the information actually gets to QuickBooks?
Well, I mean, we all know the problems with cash basis. Some will pay the rent on the 1st and the 30th.
Yeah.
Right.
For managerial accounting.
You in 1 month and nothing in the month, but you hope you get 12 of everything, all the reoccurring stuff. You hope you get 12 by the end of the year, but then,
Businesses grow into accrual. So they start off as cash basis because it's a matter of the value of return on the time and the quality of books. And I can tell you, I've always done the businesses I ran, we were always accrual based. I fully understand it. Managerial accounting is like one of the things I love the most.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes a small business, it doesn't need, it's going to do business for IRS anyways. And when they start really getting those larger things that need to be broken out across months, you start to get them into more accrual based. We've actually found some interesting tricks, even on cash basis, using accounts payable, even though accounts payable doesn't officially exist in cash basis. But in QuickBooks Online, you can use it to match POs and still capture the expenses appropriately for like the financial reporting, but still be able to track if you've got money outstanding.
Got it.
So it's the age-old dilemma, right? Cash versus accrual accounting. So,
yeah. No, I was just trying to think of the biggest value of QBO has always been these bank.
That's my thought.
The biggest value is to the small companies who need to have their books compiled. Once you get up into more of a mid-range,
Then the story's different.
company, then we start looking at features that just aren't there.
Right.
So
Like
we're
auto
basically
reconciliation.
waiting for them to enable us to get off of desktop.
that's where Flowcast comes into play. So when you start getting to that medium to enterprise, now you're talking about teams of accountants that are having to go through a whole month-end close, and they can actually.
Flowcast is cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
How many? Are you guys familiar with how bank feeds really work? What the behind the scenes is?
It's just a magical.
Well,
Was it Flowcast?
I agree with Sarah.
Matt, we're gonna stop here on this subject, and I know.
Oh, it's
Hold that thought. We can talk about it next week. I'd love to hear.
Is Brandon waving or go saying stop?
Flowcast. Was that what you called that?
Yeah.
Flowcast.
Oh, yeah.
FLOQUAST, right?
It's where
OAST. No, you.
Blake.
Oliver.
Blake Oliver.
Blake Oliver went to work for them, and I highlighted them in my talk on audit prep because I called them. I said your program would be great for audit prep and collaborating with the auditors and everything because of the way to get all the way to the year end, it's all there. All you have to do is add a couple of extra things, and you're ready. So yeah, I would love to. But again, like I'm a contractor controller, so I have clients that have accounts payable staff, accounts receivable staff, and they all answered me, and I oversee the accounting department.
Right.
And so that kind of program makes sure that everybody's doing what they need to do on time and documenting everything so you can do an orderly close. It's really slick.
So let me ask a question. So very specifically, they said about 75, at least 50 to 75% of the students that are in our program are going to be firing their accountants. And they're going to be looking for new ones, somebody that will take over that will get them the information they need.
Who said they?
This is the class you're taking, the program that you're in?
Yes.
Hey, Gina's got to go though real quick, right?
Oh,
I do.
She does.
So you will leave us up, right?
Yes.
Turn off the recording.
Okay. All righty. We'll see you all.
Good again.
Face next week.
Next week.